Good day to you. When you look at the words human resource planning, what comes to your mind? Human resources and planning. So why should it be planned? For the survival and success of an organization, an effective human resource planning strategy is required. What differentiates you from your competitors is how good is your people practices, and human resource planning is the first and foremost and the fundamental steps in the course of HR strategy. Moving on. In this chapter, we will uncover what are the objectives of human resource planning, what is the purpose of human resource planning, what are the processes and stages, what is the need for human resource planning, and what are the limiting factors. Moving on. Human resource planning may be defined as a strategic approach in the acquisition, utilization, improvement, and retention of human resources for meeting the business objectives. So there was a traditional model. Let's say manpower planning is the term used in the olden times. What is now today's human resource planning was called manpower planning. Manpower planning is a bit crude term. It analyzes the gap, say what is the lack of resource, fill the resource, close it. That was the traditional model. Human resource planning is much more than identifying the gap and filling the gap. So what does HRP do? There is a shift in approach. Why is the shift in approach? Is because of the rapid business transformation and technological changes. So there is a shift, and it starts from recruiting the resources, the right resources in line with your business needs, retaining, that's how do you retain with the best in class practices. Your HR policies and procedures should attract and retain people. Utilizing them to their maximum potential and giving way for people to grow in an organization. It's a career management, and improving the resources by training and development. So all this encompasses the modern idea of human resource planning. One of the most inspirational figures, the late Steve Jobs, he redefined the way organizations work and how we recruited talent for his organization. Let's take a look at this video on what late Steve Jobs has to say.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it and you don't really love it, you're going to give up. And that's what happens to most people, actually. If you really look at the ones that ended up being successful, unquote, in the eyes of society and the ones that didn't, oftentimes it's the ones that are successful loved what they did so they could persevere when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit because they're sane, right? Who would want to put up with this stuff if you don't love it? So it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of worrying constantly. And if you don't love it, you're going to fail. So you got to love it. You got to have passion. And I think that's the high order bit. The second thing is you've got to be a really good talent scout, because no matter how smart you are, you need a team of great people, and you've got to figure out how to size people up fairly quickly, make decisions without knowing people too well, and hire them, and see how you do and refine your intuition, and be able to help build an organization that can eventually just build itself, because you need great people around you.
Now we understand why he was such a transformational leader, because he always wanted the right people around him. There was no sense of ego, and that's the reason why Apple created so many exciting and transformational products that we all love so much. Moving on. What is the relationship between human resource planning and corporate planning? Now, human resource planning identifies shortfalls in organizational capability. What is the skill gap? What are the deficiencies? What are the shortage in my organization which is preventing me from reaching the business objectives? HRP identifies this aspect. Moving on to surpluses, there will be hidden surpluses in your organization, people who are being underutilized, so to say. So how can these be moved forward, taking the best advantage of the situation? So surpluses in an organizational capability are identified through human resource planning. To borrow from the second point, poor utilization of capability, there is nothing worse than underutilizing or poor utilizing a resource. So HRP identifies the poor utilization of capability so that adequate measures can be formulated and implemented. So why is HRP necessary? Do we need HRP? The answer is an emphatic yes. The first reason is innovative and fast changing environment. Business is transforming at a breakneck speed, and the resources have to gear up, and you need highly specialized workers. So you will not have time to react when a resource leaves. So this is a challenge which HR teams face. So HR planning identifies this area. Employment protection legislations. It is not so easy to send people home. Giving pink slips are not easy. You have to fall in line with employment legislations, follow the best practices and the legal practices. So HRP identifies your surplus labor and the areas where you can divert them so that you can answer the questions that is faced from the external environment. Rapid technological change. This makes it even more complex for the HR teams. You need workers who are flexible, with highly skilled and with the right attitudes to work in diverse environments. So this facilitates the business objectives. So HRP identifies this area and helps you to cope with the rapid technological change. Now, the scope and variety of markets and the competition and labor resources. Businesses operate in dynamic environment in which there is intense competition, and you will have to come over and conquer your competitors' ideas within a short time span and score points. Now, the availability of labor resources, with increasing limitations on migration and legislations, what we find is that HRP has to rise to the level of identifying the potential resources within the given time frame to respond to this challenge. And as in all the cases, information communication technology, human resource planning with the use of ICT can develop better models so that the business can face the challenges.